Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for T&D today, we have the Dandy Donut Factory mug. Honestly, felt kind of appropriate given what we were talking about today. And then inside of it, we have some Wildberry Zinger herbal tea. I'm very excited. I've got some new teas coming in the mail, but they're obviously not here yet. So we got to wait till they get here. Supply chain stuff has slowed everything down, but I am excited about the new ones. However, this is still very tasty. Again, if you like a berry-y, fruity kind of tea, this is honestly a really good option for you. So, anyway, the reason that the Dandy Donut Factory mug and the thing we're talking about today kind of feel like they go in conjunction, it is because today we're talking about my the 5 things that I think are the best, the 5 things I think are the most dandy, if you will. The 5 best class features in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. There's not a whole lot more to say about it other than that they're the 5 class features that I think stand out above the rest of them, the ones that I think are genuinely worth getting if you have the ability to get, kind of no matter what. The ones that I look forward to the most when I am going through a class sheet. The ones that I look forward to picking up as I level up in that specific class. So let's go ahead and let's talk about them. They're all honestly pretty self-explanatory. I went ahead and I pulled out the ones that I think are the best, as in the ones that I believe give the most mechanical benefit. And then also I went ahead and I added the ones that within that sort of like pull out, I went ahead and I added the ones that I believe are the are my favorite. Not I believe my favorite. That are my favorite. So let's go ahead and let's get started. We're going to start at number 5, work our way down the list. These are in order, and I think that is an important thing to note. So first up at number 5, and I think it's worth mentioning that you might see a couple of outliers on this list, and by outliers I mean ones that you believe that should be on here that are not. I'm going to give an honorable mention right before I do number 1 because it's going to be one that I think people are going to be baffled by not having on this list, but it's my list. I do what I want. So anyway, number 5. This one comes to us from the Artificer, and that is the magic item, the chain of magic item, Adept, Savant, and Master. It's really, really hard to pass up the ability to attune to 4, then 5, then 6 magic items as you level up. I understand that they come at higher levels. Adept kicks in at level 10, then Savant at 14, then Master at 18, and so it's a late game kind of thing, and you definitely might not even make it up to it. But if you're playing a game that goes up into those levels, you are going to really, really appreciate the fact that suddenly you have the ability to tune to up to 6 magic items at a time, regardless of race, class, and level requirements associated with those items. That is kind of another really big one. That comes with Savant. It removes the need for prerequisites, essentially, as you are able to attune to pretty much anything you want to. Adept allows you to craft items better, craft lower level magic items better, which is also fantastic. Important to note that in that same vein, you can craft uncommon and common magic items in a quarter of the time, and I believe in a quarter of the price as well. Healing potions are in that list. Those are uncommon magic items. You can make a bunch of them. And then Master just gives you a 6th attunement slot. But being able to strap yourself with a bunch of really, really high-powered weapons is fantastic, quite frankly. The attunement system is built the way it is so that you can't just strap up. But if you are playing an Artificer, you can just strap up, and it's really, really fantastic. And honestly, in my mind, it is one of the most powerful things in the current game engine. It comes late, so you have to take that into account as well, which is part of why it's ranking at number 5. But the attunement system was set up in such a way that it did not allow for excess of 3 attunements for a reason until Artificer came around. And Artificer came around after some serious like consideration, some rebalancing, all of that stuff. So that is why that one makes number 5 on my list. Number 4, another one that comes a little bit later in the game, but not quite so late as Master or Savant, but the same stage as Magic Item Adept. Number 4 for me is Divine Intervention from the Cleric. You might be thinking, why on earth would this dice roll to maybe get something to happen be this high on the list? Well, let me tell you. Divine Intervention is effectively, it is not like written as, but it is effectively the earliest you can get an equivalent of the Wish spell in the game through a class feature. That is 7 levels earlier than you could possibly learn the spell Wish via any normal class. But the concept behind it is that you get to ask your deity, aka the DM, for anything. You can ask them for anything. They then determine the form that takes, but you can just ask for stuff. Anything you want it to be, you can ask for it. You could ask for any of the things listed in the Wish spell. And as a DM, I wouldn't necessarily think that is an unreasonable ask if you succeed on that roll. Granted, it has a very limited number of uses in terms of like the frequency with which you can do it. However, it never expires with the number of uses you can do. And when you hit level 20, it automatically succeeds. But if you're playing to level 20, you would also have had access to Wish leading up to that. Not really the point. Again, never expires. Doesn't have the same contingency that Wish does where like you suddenly can't cast it anymore. But that's important to note. So you get this at level 10, as I mentioned before. So again, a little bit later in the game. However, when you do get it as a cleric, it becomes something that you want to do almost every single day because there's always that shot that you can actually get it and you get some like insane otherworldly information beamed into your character's brain via the DM telling you, the player, something that is going on that you should not be able to know. This can be used to help you in combat, help you in travel, help you in a whole bunch of different ways. It is such a cool feature to be able to use. I love getting to use it. Also, it is obvious based on everything I've talked about on this channel before. The Cleric is one of my favorite classes, if not my favorite class, so I'm a little biased there, but I do genuinely think that it ranks high on the list of top-notch class features. I think Channel Divinity is fine. I think that is very subjective to the subclass you pick, which I have done my best to rule out subclasses in this whole list that I've got going here, which is why I went ahead and put Divine Intervention here. Because I think it is stellar as a feature, and I think that it is actually underutilized and underrated. But that's not the point of what we're talking about. Well, it is kind of the point of what we're talking about here. I think it's fantastic, and this is my list, and I think that everybody else is wrong and should know better. Moving along to number 3. This one was my first love when it came to class features, which is really saying something because I played a ranger, and this is not one of the things that I got from that class. Or no, it is something I eventually got because at level 11 with Hunter, you have the option to pick evasion. I believe that's right. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure somewhere in there you can pick evasion, and I did. My number 3 on the list is evasion. There are so many dexterity saving throws that you have to make in this game. So many. Just an ungodly number of dexterity saving throws. So, when you have the ability as a rogue or as a monk to just go, no, I'm good, and not take that damage or only take half of that damage, it's incredible. That is a guaranteed success on whatever you are doing. Guaranteed that you succeed on the saving throw. The most you can take from a dexterity saving throw is half when you have evasion, which is the equivalent of succeeding for everybody else that's involved in that saving throw. That is so much damage that you can circumvent. If you're fighting an ancient red dragon, you get fire breath laid down across the field. Your cleric takes 96 points of damage. Your barbarian takes 48 points of damage. Rogue, walk straight through it. No issues at all. That is bonkers. That is an insane class feature. That is genuinely something that feels almost too powerful to me, especially given the fact that dexterity gets such a high place in the 5th edition engine. The fact that evasion is inherently linked to 2 very dexterous classes and one that is partially dexterous is crazy to me. It makes them so good, so incredibly good at being able to just survive stuff. Granted, they are glass cannons for the most part. Like, they are rogues, get in, do a bunch of damage, and get out. Monks, get in, do a bunch of little points of damage, and then, like, dodge stuff and sort of get themselves ready to not get hit. And this sort of feeds thematically into both of those things. But it's such a good feature. And it kind of kills me that it is only available to those two, plus the Hunter Ranger, even though the Hunter Ranger really kind of shouldn't be it shouldn't be. It's a point of discussion. It feels like those should all be features available to the Ranger, not the point. But that is why Evasion takes number 3 on my list. That's a level 7 feature for Monk and Rogue, for the record. If I didn't say that, I can't remember if I did or not. I've got it written down on my notes here, but I cannot remember if I actually said it. Bringing us to number 2 on the list. This one might surprise people, actually, in the fact that it is not number 1 for me. Number 2 is, drumroll please. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Number 2 is Action Surge. That is correct. Action Surge takes number 2 on my list. Most people, well, several people that I know might be throwing their arms in the air going, "What are you talking about? It's the best class feature in the game. It's so good." You're not wrong, is the thing. The difference between this and my number 1 is my personal preference. But I fully acknowledge that Action Surge might be the best class feature in the game. It is for sure the best reason to take a 2-level dip into fighter. Everybody can use Action Surge. Every single person can use Action Surge for something good. You can always use more actions. There is nothing in the world that could possibly convince me that you could not use more actions as anyone playing this game. And so, Action Surge is a beyond phenomenal resource for that specifically. Now, my biggest issue with it is that you get it once per short rest, I believe. Maybe it's long rest. I believe it's short rest. But you only get it once, is the biggest issue that I really kind of have with it. I wish that you got it more, just because of how good it is. But I also understand as to why you can't just, like, hand out free actions to people, because that would be a problem. It is once per short or long rest. I just looked it up. I understand that that is not something you can just hand out. However, I wish that it was available just like twice. Just twice. One more time would be good to me. And I know that as you level up in fighter, you gain more uses of it. But, like, I want you to start with 2. Because early on, you use it when you feel like you need to get another attack in. And later on, you use it when you want to send a message. And I want you to be able to have that send a message mentality at lower levels as well. And that's really what it comes down to for me with that one. But again, beyond phenomenal. I think it's so good. I think that it is arguably the best in the game. Now, before I do my number 1, I'm going to do the other one that everybody's probably asking about that I am not putting on this list. And I'm not doing that for what feels like a good reason to me. Even though it's not necessarily the greatest reason. And the honorable mention that is not going on this list that is actually probably about number 6 for me is Divine Smite. I know. Trust me, I understand. Divine Smite is so good. The extra damage, fantastic. The fact that you are using resources that, honestly, the Paladin spell it's fine. It's not the greatest in the world. It's genuinely okay. The fact that you can burn those resources up to deal extra damage, fantastic. The fact that you can decide to do it after you have made the attack, fantastic. There's so many great things about it. But it's very one note for me. If you look at a couple of really everything except for Evasion on this list so far, Magic Item Adept, Divine Intervention, Action Surge, they are all things that allow for flexibility within their use. And Evasion is just so good with what it is. Like, you get to pick the magic items you attune to. You get to decide or you get to ask for what you want with Divine Intervention. You get to do whatever you want with that extra action. Divine Smite is exclusively on attacks, exclusively to deal more damage. There's no additional thing to it, which is the reason that it falls back for me a little bit. But I understand and acknowledge that it is fantastic. I think that if you have any paladin in you at all, it's going to do wonders for you if you use a melee weapon. But it falls just short on my list. Which brings me to number 1. My absolute favorite feature in the game, again, just edged out Action Surge because it's my favorite, is meta magic. I adore meta magic with everything I have. It, to me, outpaces Action Surge because it can let you influence the action economy so easily, and you have a lot of different abilities to use it with. Like, you get a number of sorcery points equal to your sorcerer level, essentially. You get this starting at level 3. And you can use those sorcery points to quicken spell until the cows come home, as long as you have the sorcery points for it, or the spell slots to convert to sorcery points to do that with. In addition to being able to affect the action economy and let you do more stuff on your turn, like Action Surge does, you have the ability with it to do things like Careful Spell, giving your party members the ability to automatically succeed on a save. Kind of what evasion does. Not quite what evasion does. A little bit. You get to hit stuff that's further away. You get to double up on the people you're hitting with it. You get to do it without using any somatic or verbal components. So you could just be talking to somebody and cast like Power Word Kill into their brain, and they die and nobody knows what happened because nobody heard you speak the word. The things you can do with meta magic really are only limited by the bounds of your imagination, and that's fantastic to me. I adore meta magic. I think that everybody should use it. I think everybody should have it, unless you're not a spellcaster. But Meta Magic Adept is one of the first feats that I take, always. And I always take Subtle Spell and Quicken Spell with it. I will sometimes swap out Subtle Spell for Distant Spell if I need to, but Quicken Spell is always on that list because, similar to Action Surge, you never know when you just need a little bit extra to be able to like throw into whoever it is. And spells traditionally will be able to deal more damage than attacks will with Action Surge. However, I will say Action Surge has it beat because when you use your Action Surge and you've used your action to cast a leveled spell and your bonus action to cast a cantrip, you can go ahead and then cast another leveled spell with it because of the way the action economy works. It's a whole thing. I'll get into it at some point here. I think I might have actually at some point. It honestly is the worst, and I don't enjoy it at all, but I also understand it, which I know is not necessarily the most common thing that people run into. But that's okay. Nobody needs to really understand. That's not the point. So, those are my top 5 class features in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Again, running back through them, starting at number 5, Magic Item, Adept / Savant / Master. Number 4, Divine Intervention. Number 3, Evasion. Number 2, Action Surge. And number 1 is Meta Magic. Let me know what you guys think, because obviously these are my opinions on this one, and everybody's got a different favorite. In fact, I would venture to say that most people wouldn't even have Meta Magic landing anywhere near their top 5. But it is way up there for me. So let me know what you think. Getting on to the shows that we have today and tomorrow, we have The Paper Dungeon, we have Chromatic Dice, Beyond the Realms, Unprepared Casters, Greetings Adventurers, Bards of New York, Hapless Heroes, Ivan Adventures, Cast Party, 3 Black Halflings, Hello from the Magic Tavern, King Leo D&D, Anti-Heroes Anonymous. The Tabletop Tavern is technically on a break right now, but they should be back pretty soon. And Top of the Round. And then on Tuesday, we've got Daria the Dragon Pit, Star Wars First Resistance, Dungeons and Daddies, Bombarded, Hekva D&D, Glass Cannon, and The Queer Questers. Please go check all of them out. Let them know that I'm the one that sent you, because again, someday it's gonna come back to me, and I'm gonna think it's hysterical, and I really hope that is actually something that happens. But that is everything that I have to talk to you guys about today. So, thank you so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. Make sure, patrons, you go suggest and vote for shows so that I can do the things that you want to hear me talk about. Both the suggestion box for next week and the poll for this week should be live right now. Please go check those out. if you have not done so already. But that is everything I have to talk to you guys about, which means it's time for the ever so graceful dismount into the sign-off. I'm very good at this always. Don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.